Binge the full week of The Ray Taylor Show ad-free over at inspireddisorder.com/plus.
This is The Ray Taylor Show.
This is my top 5 Spider-Man movies. I am a fan of Spider-Man. As far as the superheroes go, probably one of my favorite, and it was fun to go back and revisit all of the Spider-Man movies. I am doing specifically the live-action Spider-Man movies, so I will not be adding to the potential list the Spider-Verse movie, which I do love that movie, don't get me wrong. But with the recent release of the Spider-Man No Way Home that kind of ties all of the different Spider-Man franchises together in a fun way, I felt it was better to just draw from those 3 Spider-Man franchises and draft and make a top 5 list out of those specific movies. So just the live action movies, just from the 3 Spider-Men that are in the background of this video. But let's get into it with the Peter Parker Spider-Man. That's right, your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. These are my top 5 Spider-Man movies. Starting off with number 5 is The Amazing Spider-Man from 2012. This is Andrew Garfield playing Spider-Man. I think one of the coolest Peter Parkers out of the 3. One thing I do appreciate with the different takes, the different Spider-Man franchises, is the different takes that each of these actors have on Peter Parker. They definitely have their own vibes to them. And there's definitely some that I like better than others. There's some, especially after the revisit, that I completely changed my opinion on. But in rewatching The Amazing Spider-Man, I thought this was pretty great. Not only is Andrew Garfield, I think, one of the better Peter Parkers, he's fun. He's kind of cool. He's not as nerdy necessarily. He skateboards. He's a little bit smoother with the chicks. I enjoyed it. I thought the action was fun. I thought the story was good. This is the one where he has the one-armed teacher who, in an attempt to like have humans regenerate, he accidentally turns into a lizard. Which is kind of interesting that there's a ton of lizards in New York City, which reptiles tend to be more of a desert animal versus a city, especially in New York City. Not a lot of desert in New York. But other than that, I really enjoyed it. You know, he's got the basketball thing going on. All of the Spider-Men, they're all kind of their own unique, kind of nerdy. The scene of him trying to develop the web is a lot of fun. I enjoyed him accidentally discovering his talents, his abilities in the subway. All of that stuff, I had a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. And because of that, because it surprised me how much I liked it, I wanted to make sure at least one of the Amazing Spider-Man movies made it on the list. And it was clear which of those 2, not to spoil anything, but chances are Amazing Spider-Man 2 isn't going to make the list. But coming in at number 5 is The Amazing Spider-Man from 2012. Moving on to my 4th favorite Spider-Man movie. This is a movie that I actually didn't think was going to make the list. When I first watched it, wasn't a big fan necessarily, even though I do like the trilogy of films that it comes from. But in the rewatch, especially after rewatching all of the movies, I couldn't not. And it was so much going, it was definitely going to be on the list, but I had to put it over The Amazing Spider-Man, which I really enjoyed too. And that movie, coming in at number 4, is Spider-Man Far From Home. This one came out in the year 2019. Of course, this is the Spider-Man with Tom Holland as Spider-Man, which I think out of all of the Spider-Men, even though I think the Amazing Spider-Man, Andrew Garfield, even though I think Andrew Garfield was like the coolest. I really liked his performance as Peter Parker. Probably my favorite performance as Peter Parker, I guess. But I think the best, if that makes any sense, the best Peter Parker is Tom Holland. I think he nails that kind of innocence, that boyish charm in a way that the other two don't necessarily do. And at first I didn't really like this movie because of the drones and the fake is kind of like the fake superhero, but in rewatching it, I like, especially after watching some of the other ones and really getting a different view on kind of how bad some of the other Spider-Man movies are. This one had to be on the list as well, and I liked it. I think it was more cohesive than the Amazing Spider-Man. I think the story with the love story between MJ and Peter Parker in this trilogy of films definitely is better than the original Spider-Man movies, the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies, which I'll get more into that later. But yeah, I really like that. I thought the addition of Jake Gyllenhaal as the kind of this fake superhero guy, I think it was an interesting kind of wrinkle to the story, to like him actively trying to fool the superhero people into believing that he's a superhero and able to pull off like these like that. The kind of logic leap that you have to think that could be pulled off in any realistic way is probably why I didn't like this movie initially. But after watching it, I was like, it's fun. There's some great action moments. I really did enjoy the love story, kind of that blossoming love story between MJ and Peter. At least it felt believable. And it's fun seeing him in Europe, going to the different places in Europe with the Iron Man glasses and him kind of not really using them correctly. It's kind of got one of those downer things, being the second film in the trilogy. Very similar to a lot of second films and trilogies where it has like this aspect, whether it be Back to the Future 2 or even the second Star Wars film, where it has like this darker tone. When he gets bamboozled into giving those glasses to Jake Gyllenhaal's character was like such like a bummer. And the Tom Holland Spider-Man is pretty, in all of the movies, pretty notorious at accidentally causing a lot of trouble, but in the most innocent kind of ways. So anyway, Spider-Man Far From Home I thought was a fun movie, and I really enjoyed it, and that's why it's here at number 4. Let's take a little break from the Ray Taylor Show to promote my live art streams. That's right, I am an artist as well as a podcaster, and I paint live every Thursday at 4:20 Pacific time. Head on over, the best place ever for streaming, youtube.com/inspired disorder. That's right, every Thursday at 4:20, you can watch me paint the many faces. Every week, I paint 7 new faces of abstract portraits, ink on paper, and you can watch that happen. You can hang out with me while I listen to a classic episode from one of my favorite podcasts. Head on over to youtube.com/inspired disorder and check it out. Say hi, let's hang out, let's have some fun, and let's paint some faces. Now let's get back to the show. Moving on to my third favorite Spider-Man film. I will say, and I will spoil, this is the only film from this trilogy that will make my list. It is by far the best of the trilogy that this movie is from. So coming in at number 3, my third favorite Spider-Man film is the 2004 Spider-Man 2. The only Spider-Man movie that I like from Sam Raimi. The only Spider-Man movie... That's not true. Tobey Maguire is good in the No Way Home, but I think Tobey Maguire's performance in Spider-Man 1 and 3 is baffling. Spider-Man 1 and 3 in general are baffling. I loved Spider-Man 1 when it came out. I had never seen Spider-Man 3 until rewatching all these movies to make this list. But Tobey Maguire's performance is horrible. Like, these movies are not that good. They are not that good. Spider-Man 2, definitely, in my opinion, the only good Spider-Man movie that Sam Raimi did. And maybe it's just I'm not a big Sam Raimi fan. I mean, this movie has some pretty epic scenes. It has, it kind of starts kind of funny where he's a pizza delivery guy and kind of campy, which Sam Raimi tends to be pretty campy. It has an amazing hospital kind of horror scene involving Dr. Octavius, which I think that's kind of a great, villain in this movie. You have the issues that Spider-Man, that Peter Parker's having, losing his abilities because he's not really into being the Spider-Man anymore. There's the constant issue with him and MJ through the entire... What is her name? MJ in this? Kirsten Dunst. Yeah, MJ, Mary Jane. I don't think Kirsten Dunst is a very good actor either. But their kind of on-again, off-again relationship where it's like he's into her, but then she's not into him. Her relationship with Harry in the first one is mind-blowing. Like, it's clear that Peter likes her, but then Harry ends up dating her, and he knows that he's into Mary Jane. And for whatever reason, Mary Jane is in love with Peter, despite the fact that there's no real reason she loves Peter. It's just like, it's so the whole love story between the two of them. When she likes him, he's like pushes her away. It's just unbearable. But in this movie, for whatever reason, everything kind of clicks together. Everything kind of makes sense. The scene where he protects the train from going off the tracks, and you have the people on the train having his back. Of course, Joey Diaz, the stand-up comedian, being one of those actors. Kind of a great little moment there. If you're a fan of stand-up comedy, a fan of Joey Diaz, but kind of a great scene, despite the fact that Tobey Maguire is a horrible actor. The guy is a bad actor. But this movie was able to come together in a way that made it like everything kind of worked for this one movie that Sam Raimi did. Whereas the first and the third Spider-Man, spoilers again, don't hold your breath on either of those coming up. I mean, I think Spider-Man 3 by Sam Raimi is pretty widely... I think that movie, Spider-Man 3, suffers from the exact same problems The Amazing Spider-Man 2 suffers from. And that is being over-bloated with villains, with story, with things coming and going. And then also just the performance of Tobey Maguire is just horrible in 3, but it's pretty horrible in all of them. Anytime he has to cry, like it feels like Tobey Maguire is an alien doing an impersonation of a human having emotions. Like he doesn't feel like he's ever had emotions before, and his character kind of illustrates that. Kind of illustrates how dead inside Tobey Maguire is. If we find out that Tobey Maguire was an alien this whole time, it would make his performances in all these movies make complete sense. But I think it all comes together. Also, we don't have the Green Goblin villain, which in the first one I really didn't like in the rewatch. I thought that was so bad. I think Willem Dafoe is just... I think he's a great actor, but for whatever reason, when he's got the helmet on, it just doesn't work. It just feels like he's a theme park character instead of a supervillain. It just kind of feels ridiculous. James Franco's performance is like so extra in the other movies. But for whatever reason, again, everything kind of comes together in Spider-Man 2, and I think that's a great movie, and that is why it's number 3. It's my third favorite. Moving on to my number 2 favorite Spider-Man movie. I think for a lot of people, this would probably be their number 1. And it could have been my number 1, but my number 1 is my number 1 for I think more personal reasons than anything, which I will talk about when I get to my number 1, but we got to go with number 2 first. And my number 2 favorite Spider-Man film is the newest release from the Spider-Man universe of movies, from the multiverse of movies. This is the 2021 Spider-Man No Way Home. The way they're able to blend all of the different Spider-Man movies and making it all about a multiverse. Yes, this is basically what the animated movie did, but I think the way they're able to connect all the other movies that have been done by the different franchises, by the different production companies over the years, I think is beautiful. I think it adds a lot. I think there's a lot of heart with them trying to fix the villains in a way. I think that's an interesting take on the kind of how to resolve the conflict between the superhero and the supervillain, is to try and cure them of some of the reasons why, which all of these villains in the Spider-Man universe are all kind of sympathetic in a way. Like Octavius, his chip fried, with the Green Goblin, the serum kind of turned it into a Jekyll and Hyde thing. With the electric guy, he fell into a vat of, he didn't do it on purpose. He was a big fan of Spider-Man before. I like that they brought all the villains back. The visuals were amazing, especially when, Doctor Strange takes Peter into the mirror realm or whatever. Those visuals are amazing. I love the, Spider-Man and his crew with MJ and Ned kind of having his back. I think her performance, Zendaya's performance is great. I think she's by far, out of all of the love interests in all of the Spider-Man movies, I think Zendaya knocks it out of the park. I think she's just an amazing actress anyway. I love the chemistry she has with Tom Holland. And I even Ned. I think Ned's a great guy. Out of all of the kind of friend characters the Spider-Man movies have, I think he's the best. Definitely glad that it's not Harry again. And then also you have the interesting kind of take on the origin story, the take on, instead of it being Uncle Ben, it's Aunt May dying and telling him, with great responsibility comes, with great power comes great responsibility. I think the fact that it lands so hard in the third film is great, and how they're all able to bond together. I enjoyed, it's such a fun movie. That's the reason why I wanted to do this list and just include those 3 franchises, because this movie really ties it together in such a great way, and is the only really the only good, or probably definitely the best, Tobey Maguire performance. He doesn't have a whole lot to do, which is fine, but I think it's great. It also has redemption for the Amazing Spider-Man. He's, his character in a lot of ways. I think that those 2 movies get shit on a lot, and in a lot of ways, this movie, the characters and what they say, they try and give him, they try and prop him up, which I appreciate, because The Amazing Spider-Man 2, if that had just been split into 2 movies, easily I would love that franchise more than the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies. Easily. Because I like him as a Spider-Man way more than Tobey Maguire. But anyway, I loved all of the aspects of it. I think the Green Goblin is the best. He doesn't wear the mask. You don't have Willem Dafoe wearing the mask. His performance, he's such a good actor. He doesn't need the mask. How they're able to convey that back and forth is great. It does have kind of a bummer ending, where everybody forgets who he is, and he goes, and his MJ doesn't know who he is. Ned doesn't know who he is. His aunt is dead. Happy doesn't, nobody knows who he is anymore. So it is kind of a bummer ending for the trilogy of Tom Holland movies, but such a fun movie. I could see easily why people would have it as their number 1 Spider-Man movie, but for me, it's my number 2, and that is because let's take a little break from the show to promote The Many Faces. That's right, I am also an artist. I do ink paintings on paper of abstract faces, A new face, a new painting gets released every single day over at inspireddisorder.com. So head on over to my website to purchase original artwork directly from the artist. Also, there are prints available for select images. Head on over to inspireddisorder.com, buy original art, buy prints if that's your jam, if you want 8x10 prints on high quality paper. Also, if you're looking to wear some art, there are shirts available with original artwork by myself. Select faces from the many faces are also available in t-shirt form. You go to inspireddisorder.com, you buy original artwork, you buy prints, you buy shirts. You're supporting an artist directly. And if you're the type of person that likes to invest in NFTs, there are also NFTs available for select faces. Go to inspireddisorder.com now. And now let's get back to the show. Coming in at number 1, my favorite Spider-Man movie out of all of them, easily. It was, before the rewatch, my number 1. After the rewatch, solidified as my number 1. The only movie that could have knocked it off was the No Way Home. But coming in as my favorite Spider-Man movie is Spider-Man Homecoming. 1, you have, in my opinion, the best Spider-Man with Tom Holland. 2, you have, in my opinion, the best villain character in any superhero movie. By far the most sympathetic villain character. You have a small business owner in, what's his name? Michael Keaton, right? Who plays Adrian Thomas? Anyway, doesn't matter his character's name. The most sympathetic character, whose small business owner gets bumped out by large corporation, whatever the Iron Man's company is called. So you actually feel bad for this guy. Now, of course, he breaks bad. He uses this technology for evil. You have Peter Parker's love interest in this first movie ends up being the daughter of the villain, the scene where they're driving to the dance is so intense. Just like that drive where Peter Parker knows that this girl that he loves, that is not MJ yet, is the daughter of a villain, is just the most intense thing, and how he comes to realize who Peter Parker is on this drive as well. It makes that dynamic that's in so many movies, that protective dad dynamic trope that's in movies. It takes that to a whole nother level because he's a supervillain, right? I love that. I love the Ferris Bueller's Day Off kind of running through the backyards of stuff. I love the relationship between Peter Parker and Ned as friends. I love the villain. What's his name? He's in the Amazing Spider-Man 2. Flash. I think he's the best Flash in all of the Spider-Man versions of Flash, which I don't think he's in the Peter Parker one, but he's definitely in maybe he is in yes, he is. He's like 30 years old in the Peter Parker one. That was another aspect of the Sam Raimi films, where it's like these high school kids, like the bullies that pick on Peter Parker, look like they are, getting close to middle age more than high school. It is ridiculous how old Flash is in that movie. In the Amazing Spider-Man, a little bit more believable. Definitely seems more like a high school student. And it's kind of a fun turn where he stands up to him and then they become friends. In this one, he is just an annoying kid who would be I don't know, I really enjoyed Tony Revolori's performance as Flash in the Tom Holland Spider-Mans. So much of this movie I absolutely love. Great action as well. The scenes where he's learning how to use the new suit is a lot of fun. Kind of a great coming of age type of a story. You have Ned fulfilling his duty as man in chair, which is great. them hacking the suit, taking off the parental guidance stuff. I really loved it. It's a movie that has so much heart, so much fun. It's my favorite Spider-Man. It's just so good, and it was easy as my number one. Easy as my number one because it's such a fun movie. I had so much fun watching it again, and it was a no-brainer to put it at number one, especially after watching the other ones where I was just so blown away. My revisit of the Sam Raimi movies. So that's it. Number one, Spider-Man Homecoming is my favorite Spider-Man movie. Now, I mentioned already the movies that didn't make it. Amazing Spider-Man 2. Way too much. I mean, even the villain of what's his name? Too many villains. I really liked his performance though. I liked Garfield's performance as Peter Parker. Spider-Man 1 and 3 from Sam Raimi are just mind-blowingly bad. I mean, Spider-Man 3 probably the worst Spider-Man out of all of them, and then Spider-Man 1 probably would be the second worst. I would put Amazing Spider-Man 2 above Spider-Man 1 and 3 from Sam Raimi. If I were putting the list, a complete list, the worst Spider-Man movies would be the two Sam Raimi ones that are not Spider-Man 2. But yeah, that's it. My top 5. Let me do that one more time. This is my top 5 Spider-Man movies. My top 5. Let me start over. This is my top 5 live-action Spider-Man movies. Starting off with number 5 is the Amazing Spider-Man. I'm going to just do this. One more. For those that don't know, I cut this part out as a promo clip to post on social media. So if you don't want to listen to my explanation for all of the movies, you can just wait till like Wednesday or whenever. I think Wednesday when the spoiler clip comes out. This is my top 5 live-action Spider-Man movies, starting off with number 5, The Amazing Spider-Man. Number 4 is Spider-Man Far From Home. Number 3 is Spider-Man 2. Number 2 is Spider-Man No Way Home. And my number 1 favorite Spider-Man movie, live-action, is Spider-Man Homecoming. Let me know how you would rank the Spider-Man live-action movies in the comments. Let me know on social media. I want to hear it. Defend Sam Raimi. I mean, the second one got to number 3. I think that's pretty respectable. And I mean, if you can't understand why 1 and 3 aren't on the list, then maybe you need to revisit them. Maybe. I don't know. Anyway, that's my top 5 list. And I'd love to hear how you would rank the live-action Spider-Man movies.
New episodes of The Ray Taylor Show come out every single day. Subscribe on YouTube and everywhere our podcasts are found. Binge the full week over at inspireddisorder.com/plus. Buy Ray Taylor Show merch over at inspireddisorder.com. And follow the show on Instagram at Ray Taylor Show. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Peace out!
Today is the day where you wake up and you realize that everything that you've been dreaming about, everything that you've been wanting, every goal and wish and hope that you've ever had can become real. Dreams can come true. What you manifest in your mind, you can bring to reality.